Hello and welcome back to Joe's Math Tools. In our session today, we are calculating percentage decrease. And this is part 2 on our series on how to calculate our percentage decrease. And if you're ready, let's get started. So in our first example today, we will be calculating a decrease in 89 by 5%. In our first video that we watched, which was part 1, we calculated our percentage by first putting our 5 over 100 and then multiplying that to 89 to find out exactly what the 5% was, and then subtracting that from 89 to find out what is the decreased amount. But for this video, instead of doing that, instead I'm going to be taking my 100% and I will minus my 5% from that number to get my 95%. So when I would have subtracted the amount of the 5% from my 89, that would have given me the 95% that was remaining over. So instead, in this video, we're going to be working it a little bit different. So we're going to just be multiplying my 89 times that 95%. And remember that our percentage goes over 100. 100 divides into 500 5 times. 5 times 100 is 500. And 500 minus 500 will leave us with 0. So our 89 when decreased by 5% is 84.55. Okay, so let's try another example. Feel free at this point to pause the video, calculate your 23% decrease on 97, and then when you're ready, you can unpause the video and work along with me. Okay, so let's begin by taking out 100%, and we're going to be subtracting 23% from that number. And when 100% minus 23%, we're going to be left with 77%. Okay, so now that we have our 77%, remember that this 77% is what we would have calculated by calculating our 23% and then subtracting the 23% total from 97, which would have left us with our 77%. So by using this method instead, we're just going to be cutting straight to our 77% instead of having to perform the subtraction on 97 afterwards. So our 77 will be written as a fraction with 100 as its denominator. And remember that our 97 is being multiplied to our 77. So 7 times 7 is 49. We'll put our 9, carry the 4. 7 times 9 is 63. 63 plus 4 will give us 67. We'll add a 0 and begin multiplying by my second 7. 7 times 7 is 49. We put our 9, carry the 4. 7 times 9 is 63 plus 4 will give us 67. We'll add our numbers together. 9 plus 0 is 9. 9 plus 7 is 16. We put our 6, carry the 1. 1 plus 6 is 7, and 7 plus 7 is 14. We'll put our 4, carry the 1, and 1 plus 6 will give us 7. So our product is 7,469 being divided by 100. And again, if you know your shortcut, I'll show the shortcut in this video for my persons who may be wondering what the shortcut is with dividing. So I'll show the shortcut afterwards, but we'll still go through our division. Again, just for my persons who may not be up to speed as yet. So 100 can divide into 7. We'll put our 0 above the 7. 100 can divide into 74. We'll put our 0 above my 4. And 100 divides into 746 7 times. 7 times 100 is 700. 746 minus 700 will leave us with 46. We'll bring down our 9, changing 46 into 469. 100 divides into 469 4 times. 4 times 100 is 400. 469 minus 400 is 69. Add in your decimal point in your dividend and the quotient. Add a 0, bring down that 0, changing 69 to 690. 100 divides into 690 6 times. 6 times 100 is 600. 690 minus 600 is 90. We'll add another 0, bring down that 0, changing my 90 into 900. 100 divides into 900 9 times. 9 times 100 is 900, and 900 minus 900 is 0. So our quotient for this question is 74 and 69 hundredths. Okay, so the shortcut that I was referring to that some of you may or may not be familiar with is whenever we are dividing by those numbers with tens and 100s and 1,000 and 10,000 and so on, they have a pattern that they usually follow when it comes to division. So whenever we are dividing by these type of numbers, for example with our 7,469, we know that in every whole number that the decimal point is always behind that last digit. So in this case, my decimal point is behind the 9. Now when I'm dividing, since in this case I'm dividing by 100, that means that I usually tell my students that when we're dividing by, those tens and those 100s, that you usually move the amount of zeros that you have in the number. So that kind of helps them to stay on track with knowing how many times to move the decimal point. So since we're dividing by 100, and 100 has 2 zeros, remember that with division, the number gets smaller. So that means that my decimal will be moved to my left. So because I have 2 zeros, I'm going to move my decimal point to the left 2 places. So that's 1, that's 2, and now I will replace the decimal point between the 4 and the 6. So my number will now be 74 and 69 hundredths, which you can see is the exact same thing that we got in our answer. So we're dividing by those numbers with tens, 100 and 1000 and so on. This is usually a shortcut trick that you can use to cut out the long division process. But if you don't remember the trick, remember that you can always go back to the basics, use your long division, and still get the exact same answer. So you don't have to feel pressure to try and remember the tricks. Remember, the basics never lead us astray. Okay, so there you have it. We just learned a second method on how we can calculate the decrease of a number. But in this method, instead of multiplying by our percentage and then subtracting it from our amount, we just subtracted that percentage from 100 and multiply by the difference. Okay, so remember to practice this skill. Remember that you have multiple methods that you can use, and it's all about using the method that best works for you. And until next time, this is Jules Math Tools, where math is made easy.